home. I'm not stuck on the freeway anymore.
Oh, that's a good news.
It was the best news all day. Yeah. So last week I was in Houston, and I left my place of business on my way to the airport, and I was going to do the show from the airport. And about 30 minutes into a 30-minute drive, I had 60 minutes left, and I was like, this is not going to work. So I'm back, which means you're back, which means everybody else is back, and we're here to talk about mules and donkeys. So folks, I want to say welcome. My name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every week we get together. Well, every week when I'm not stuck in traffic on a Houston freeway, we get together, talk mules and donkeys, and that's what we're going to do here today. Just a little bit of what we have in store for today. We're going to talk feed, mule and donkey feed. We're going to talk about disposition. We're going to talk about the come-along rope. Seems like we talk about that every single week, and this week is no different. We're going to talk about bidding programs. Matter of fact, before we get too much further, I want to let folks know that we've got an event coming up 1 week from today. It is going to be everything you need to know about mule and donkey bits, and this is a free event, but you do have to register. So in the comments section, I'm going to put a link to register. It's going to be about an hour long. Steve is going to go through what you need to know about a bidding program. He's going to talk about some of the mistakes folks make with bits, some of the damage that can be done, but also he's going to be laying out a pathway for you to create a program that works for you. And he's going to cover the mule rider's martingale. He's going to cover the trail rider bit. We'll talk a little bit about hackamores. We'll talk a little bit about some of the bits that maybe you've heard are good to use, but aren't necessarily going to wind up being great to use. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be free. You do have to register, but once you're registered, you're in, and we will be excited to have you there. Steve, how has the week been since, well, the last 2 weeks?
Hey, really good. By the way, I just got a UPS notice that my bits are on the way. The ones I've been waiting on since June. They finally got them built, and I've got a UPS statement that says they're on their way. Yay!
That's what we want.
I have them in time for the show.
That's great. I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are excited about that. So one of the thing about the COVID pandemic is it messed up a lot of supply chains. And while maybe us in particular weren't necessarily affected in the very beginning, all of the supply chains that we have been dependent on in so many other industries, now they're feeling the effects of that because those supplies are running out. And so we had a lot of folks saying, hey, when are the bits coming back? We heard about the Steve Edwards bit. We've heard about the legend. We've heard about the stories. We want to live it for ourselves. And we say they're coming November. So it's good to hear that they're on their way. And I'm sure folks will be excited. Well, folks, if you are watching, and you are because you saw this, whether you're watching live or the replay, we want to know that you're here. Take a second in the comment section. Let us know your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. I already see some of our friends, David, Jackie, Andrea, Mary, already saying aloha, which means hello. Aloha also means goodbye, but we'll take the hello part for right now. They're already saying hello. We would like to hear from you too. So if you are watching live right now, let us know that you're watching. And if you're watching the replay, if you're one of the faithful replay watchers, let us know that you watch each week because we know that you're there. We know that you can't necessarily get there because you're coming home from work, but we know that you're watching. We would love to hear your name and say hello to you on a future broadcast. So let's see who is watching. Hey, right off the bat, Gone International. Faye is watching from hot and muggy Queensland, Australia. Good to have you here, Faye. David is watching from East Texas. It's beautiful, 73 degrees and nice. David, we're going to get to your question today. Levi is watching, coming to you from a cornfield in Van Cleek Hill, Ontario. Gone International, beautiful day. Steve, I'm confident this is the first time that the Ask Steve Mule and Donkey Questions Answered program has been viewed from a cornfield in Canada.
Yeah.
Van Cleek. I think this is the first time that's ever happened. We're setting records.
Yeah. That's a new one on me.
That's great. Jackie is watching from Placitas like she always does. Good to have you here, Jackie. 60 degrees. Very windy here now. Hold on to your hat if you walk outside. Andrea is watching from Boone, North Carolina, sunny and 63 degrees. Mary is here from Arkansas, 60 degrees. She's got our first It's not a question, it's a comment. My little mule Millie is doing awesome. Come along hitch is great. Recommend it to everyone. Glad to hear that. Thank you very much, Mary. Hey, Sherman Johnson is watching from Oklahoma City, or Oklahoma. 62 degrees with thunderstorms. Myra is here. We're having nice fall weather, mostly 70 to 80 degrees in Southern California. All right, enjoy it for
Got to
us.
mention a little bit about something with Myra.
All right, let's hear it.
It can be later. It's up to you.
No, go for it. She's here now.
Well, she was wanting a saddle without a horn because one time she kind of got hung up with the horn. Well, here's what happens, folks, especially if you've ridden English. You do a different dismount with English than you do with Western saddle. And what happens to a lot of our ladies, their shirt gets hung up because they turn and they kick their feet out. And then when they do that, they get hung up on the horn with their shirt and something else as well. And so that's number one thing, Dave, safety wise, our biggest part of our equine accidents is getting on and getting off. 83% of our equine accidents is getting on and off. And there's a certain way to get on and off. Again, folks, how many of you are watching Grit? Watch Grit. Watch them when they get on. When they get on, they get a hold of the horn. They get a hold of the mane. They've got a rein tipped, and that head is pointing towards you a little bit so that left brain is looking at you. Now the horse, now the mule is watching you. And then you get a hold of that horn and you climb up. When you get down, you do the same thing. You pick up on the rein. You hold the left rein a little snug. You got that left eye tipped to you a little bit. So now that horse, that mule, that donkey sees you getting on, off. You put your hand on the horn and you throw your right leg over and you slide your left foot out. And notice how they dismount. They dismount to the shoulder, the neutral position. That's the place that you want to get on and off of right there. But when Myra, you tell me if that's what happened and why you want a hornless saddle is because when you turn, you kick both feet out and then you jump off. But if you do it the correct way, folks, and that is hold a hold of the horn, tip the nose to you a little bit, have a hold of the rein and the mane. Don't cut your mane off of your mules and your donkeys. Don't do that, okay? Now, then you go ahead and you climb on. Same thing when you get off. Notice you climb on and off from the shoulder. That's the safest place to get on and off. But here's what happens, folks. We take it for granted that old Sweet Pea, i.e. Fluffy, is going to do what it's done for 10 years and not move when you get on. Except for one day, what happens is they move. And when they do, you fall off and hit the ground. Was not Fluffy's fault. It was yours for not having everything in gear. So Myra, you tell me, is that what happened?
Myra, let's hear. We'll talk about this more throughout the broadcast. We've got more folks hanging out with us today. Karen is watching from Western Montana. Bureau of Land Management Burros just getting their first taste of snow. Didn't want to leave the cover to walk off that scary white stuff. Picked up front feet like a cat. She's got her hands full there. Ron and Virginia are watching from Berg Hill, Ohio. 60 degrees and sunny today. Soak it up. Soak it in. Robert is watching. Bob from South Texas, 80 degrees. Hey, Jim is here. Jim, thanks for watching each and every week, and I see you on the replays too. Thank you for saying hello. Maryland, 58 degrees, overcast. Had my mule's teeth floated last week. Wow. Great for their attitude. Is that going to help their attitude, Steve, getting those teeth floated?
Oh, night and day. Look, if your mouth is bothering you, then your rest of your whole body can be a problem. And that's just us as humans. All right? Us as humans. When it comes down to your donkeys and your mules, And even if you got lower standards riding a horse, yes, float the teeth. Remember, the equine grinds their feed. They don't chew their feed. So the incisors get a hold of the food. They pull it back in to where the tongue is helping it. And then your main molars back here do the grinding like this. They don't chew like this, okay? They don't do that. They grind. So what happens is you end up with points where it's uneven, okay? All of a sudden now, this one over here is now higher than this one, and vice versa. They have to all be filed down, rasped down, so that they're all nice and smooth, so they can properly chew their feed. Now, here's what happens. If they don't properly have their teeth done and get their teeth floated, you can have colic problems, really bad colic problems, because what happens is the fiber in the feed that they're chewing does not get munched up good, and you end up getting a fiber hung up, and then you can get colic. So no more than a ½ inch thick is what they want the average fiber to be. There you are.
Awesome. Great comment. Thanks for taking the time to share a little bit. Karen is watching from Central Virginia. Beautiful weather, 66 degrees. Happy to be able to catch y'all live today. We're glad that you're here too, Karen. We got that time change out here in the wild west of Arizona. We don't roll our clocks forward and backwards. So 3 p.m. is always 3 p.m., but the rest of the United States, it's got those daylight saving times, and maybe around the world. I don't know what other countries necessarily do, but y'all rolled those clocks back an hour. So it's I think an hour earlier for everybody, something like that. I don't know. A little bit of a different time. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm glad y'all are here. Hey, Anouk is watching from France. International again. Good to have you here, Anouk. Haven't seen you in a while, but we're glad that you're hanging out with us today. Bruce is watching from Minor Hill, Tennessee. 68 degrees and sunny. Bobby is watching. Hi, guys. Just purchased Steve's Mule Foundation and Ground Starting Kit. You won't be sorry. I'm excited for it to arrive. Thank you, Steve, for contacting me just to see if I had any questions. No questions yet, but I'm sure I'll have some later. Thanks again. Keep hanging out with us, Bobby. We'd love to have you here. Bobby, Carol, whichever one's watching, or both of you. Tyler is watching from Saskatchewan, -1 degree Celsius. Oh my goodness, it's getting cold. Bundle up. We're glad we're here to keep you warm with some mule and donkey info. Susan Callahan is here. Steve, I use a half-breed on my current riding mule. The snaffle alone doesn't seem to be enough. He is a bit high-strung in the group rides, wanting to be out in front. And the half-breed has the extra nose piece and sure helps with the leverage when I need it. What do you think about those? I used a correction bit when I first bought him, but had trouble with that, and my equine dentist found he had some issues with his mouth that would make that correction bit very uncomfortable for him. So we want to stay in a snaffle, but with the added support of the nose band. A mule trainer told me this was not ideal for a mule, though. What are your thoughts?
Take that bit and see how far you can throw it, because all you're going to do is create more problems. If you thought you had problems before, you're going to have more problems now. Listen, mules are very sensitive about their nose, very sensitive. And when you're using a sliding gag bit like that, you are creating problems, a lot of problems. And so little by little, this mule is going to get to where it's had enough. Donkeys will be the same way. But this mule is going to have where he's had enough. And then one day you're going to try to stop him. He's going to keep on going. You're going to try to turn him and you can't turn. And remember, folks, remember I told you, sliding gag bits, only thing they do is create future problems. And then you'll end up having a lot more work in the future. Now, on top of that, a snaffle bit is meant for foundation training and to fix a problem. You're going to hear about that in my bit program for the webinar. You're going to hear me talk about it. It's extremely important. You all remember that mules don't care about their mouth anyway. But when you get the nose and the mouth together, you are going to be creating problems, especially the majority of the riders out there, and I said a majority, 95% easy, are always holding on to the reins. They don't let it loose. They don't let them relax. So now you're creating like a vice on the nose, on the in the mouth, and also the third part right here underneath the chin with the chin strap. So you're just essentially clamping the mouth down to try to get some control of this mule, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Build a foundation, folks. Don't just put my bit in the mouth and say, okay, don't work. What you should have done first was get the teeth balanced and floated. Get those correct. Once those are correct, then go ahead and start using the correctional bit. Now, folks, the correctional bit is designed for your mules, your donkeys, that you can ride 80% off of your seat and 20% off your hands. It is not for an animal that does not have a good foundation. It is not for an animal where you have to fix a problem. Can you do some little small things with it? Yes, especially if your mule's got a good foundation. If your donkey's got a foundation worthwhile on it, yes. Then you can use a correctional mouthpiece and touch it right, left, whatever. But if you cannot ride your mule with one hand, you need to start from the ground up, ground communication, get into the mule rider's martingale, using a surcingle, and work your way before you end up calling me up and saying, Steve, I'm in the ER. Now what do I do? I don't want to hear that.
Y'all, this is a great opportunity just to remind you that next week, we're going to be doing a live event all about bits for mules and donkeys. It's a free event. All you need to do is register, and I'm putting the link in the comment section right now. Bit event is what I'm titling it, and we would love to have you there. Steve's going to really go into detail everything that you really need to know about creating a strong bit program for your animals, so that when you get out there, you're doing right by them and not doing things that may cause problems down the road. So sign up for that. It's free. You do have to sign up, but it is 100% free. Next question that we've got here, this one came in from Austin. He says, hi, Steve. I'm in the market for a bit and bridle setup. I have bought the rope halter from you, and it's going really well for my mule. We have recently started to ride him 3 days ago, was the first time we were able to get on him. I have not taken him out of the round pen yet because I only have the rope halter on him. I am needing some input on what you think will work best for me to start him out with. I want to do it right the first time. That's why I want to go with your products. Thanks.
Well, hey, thanks a lot for the question. Great question. But here's what I don't want you to do, folks. Don't go climbing on that mule and riding that mule with the rope halter. Don't do that, okay? It's you with this mule. Mules care about their nose. I just got done talking about this. Mules care about their nose. And when you start getting that mule's nose sore, you're up a creek. Look, folks, it's not important to use the rope halter. I'd rather see you not even use a halter. What I'd rather see you do is use the come along hitch everywhere, everything that you do. Notice, let me go back to my favorite programs again, on grit. You watch those old cowboys. Do you see them ride up and take their bridle off and there's a halter? No. The bridle is there. There's no halter. Why is that? Because they respect that bridle. That's important, folks. They'll get to the point to where they don't want to use a halter because they start hobbling. But let's go back. Notice the horse has got so much respect for that bridle. All they do is throw the rein over, make it a wrap a time or two. They don't tie it because they know if the horse pulls back, he could hurt himself. So they just wrap it a time or two. The horse has got so much respect that if he barely pulls on it, he knows not to pull back. Go back. With the come along hitch, you go to A, B, C. When you go to get your mule, your donkey, You take and go get them in the corral, walk them out from the corral to where you saddle, to where you clean them up and this sort of thing. You brush them. Between the corral and where you brush them and saddle them, that's the same as being on the trail. Build a foundation there. They're not allowed to look to the right. They're not allowed to look to the left. They're only allowed to look straight ahead, period. If you will practice that in a small area from the corral to where you're saddling, you can't believe how much better it will build every day to build a good foundation of respecting your hands. Respecting that come-along hitch, which will go into, these days, halter and then into bridle. You have to have super hands to use a mechanical hackamore or a Bozales. I have seen very few people being able to do that. And I'm not very good with it myself. But I'm going to tell you, don't ride with a halter. Train with a halter, yes. Don't get on them. You put the halter on them after you adjust it, and you put it on them. Put your surcingle on with your breeching. Tie your string, baling twine, from the halter to the surcingle on loose, and let them start respecting that halter. That's the only time you're going to see me do a lot of halter work, folks. Every time I go to get my mules, I go to get them with the come-along hitch. Teach them to stand still and quiet. I can drop that rope on the ground. And I think we got a video on that, don't we, Dave, where I show doing that. I drop the rope on the ground, and I'm doing my work with it.
Yeah. One of the questions I have is, you've got the rope halter. Are you able to leave the rope halter on and put the bridle on top of it and ride with the rope halter underneath, or do you need to take it off anytime you're not specifically using the halter?
Well, personally, I don't ride with a halter. We got nothing to tie to here but cactus, So I train my mules, one rein on the horn, one rein on the ground, and you stand still and quiet. Can you put a halter on underneath the bridle? Yes. I think they do better without it, but that's going to depend on the individual. Because here's the deal. In the Forest Service, you're not allowed to tie to trees. If you tie to a tree and the mule chews on it, the Forest Service will fine you. You bought yourself a tree. Okay? Period. So here's the big deal. Can you ride with it? Yes. When you tie one up, pull the bridle off. Because the majority of you don't have mules with that are respectful of the rope halter, let alone the bridle. So that way it don't hurt their mouth when they go pulling back or dinking around.
Very good. Next question comes from Karen. It's a little bit long, but it's a good one to talk about feed. She says, Steve, Dave, I'm waiting for my come-along rope purchase, watching the videos on establishing leadership. You can find those on our YouTube channel. And I can tell you they will be a big help. I do have a question on feed. We are currently feeding grass hay, first cut, low alfalfa, and barley straw for fiber. We don't have an affordable source for barley straw is what she said, not barley. Straw on the ton in my area. I have concerns that the grass hay may be too rich, even if low in alfalfa. I've not yet looked for a place to take hairs for mineral analysis as you suggest. Would you mind looking at something for me? Let's see here. She attached something and I actually misread it. Let me see if I can get it real quick. She's got a whole bunch of statistics that she looked at. Let's see. Okay, so we won't get to that. I'll have Steve look at that privately, Karen. So we can talk a little bit about what she's talking, and then she has some follow-up questions. Is grass hay and salt block usually sufficient for burros? I have a lot of grass hay. It's the most easily locally sourced. Currently, I'm feeding half grass, half barley straw. I do not have a ready local source. Is barley straw best? If grass hay is sufficient and alfalfa hay is bad, roughly what percentage of alfalfa hay is okay? We get first cut in western Montana. I'm not too concerned about the amount of grass and straw if they're still eating 1.5 to 2 hours. I'm figuring that's too much. So, Steve, just give a little bit of insights here, and I'll see if I can bring up this document she sent.
Okay, so here's the thing, Dave. We don't really need to bring up that document because, for one thing, it'd take a lot of reading and studying on my part. If you'll take the ingredients off of the article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity, and match up those ingredients, that would be the most helpful to you. Now, first cutting of any kind of hay is no good for equine, fine for cattle, but it is really tough on their kidneys and their urinary tract. Okay, and it creates a lot of heat. And the downside is it's really easy, especially for donkeys. It's really easy to grass founder one. Very easy. So, do they need the barley hay? No, they don't need it. Okay, look, folks, that creates the sugar content that these mules and donkeys, and especially donkeys, don't need. They don't need that real heavy starch. They don't need it. Okay, you want to limit it, especially when it comes to first cutting. First cutting is the worst one in the world for any equine. But follow my ingredients on that article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity, and that'll help you out. Okay, now here's the other thing. Just throwing feed at them doesn't help them. It's okay, but it doesn't give them the nutritional value that they need. That's why I tell you, get a blood sample, see your veterinarian, get a hair follicle sample, and get an idea what your mule and donkey truly needs. You may be feeding them too much zinc, and they need more vitamin B. You need to check that out.
Folks, I put in the comments section a link to Steve's article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. Has everything that you need right there, absolutely free. And in addition, you're going to see a link to Steve's video Feed Talk, which is a great program. It's free, and it's all about establishing a feed and nutrition program for your animal. I think it's about a 30-minute video, and it's going to shed a lot of insight into what you need to do. And you can pair that up with what you read in the article, and you'll be good to go. Next question that we've got here. This one is all about the Mule Ground Foundation starting kit. Kristen message: I'm considering purchasing a mammoth riding Jenny. I've been fortunate to grow up with horses and ponies riding both Western and English. I'm getting older and I would like something to trail ride that is quiet and reliable on the trails. We still take cows to the mountains and back in spring and fall. I'm new to the donkey world. I've been researching. I found your videos, then your website. I like your training methods from what I have read and seen on your website. I would like to try your come-along rope. I see that it comes with a kit. My question is, have you used the come-along rope method on horses and ponies? I still work with ponies. I'm always game to learn something that will get something's attention. Thank you much for your time, KC. What would you say there, Steve?
Oh yeah, folks, the guy that I learned the come along hits from, Nick West, out of Alberta, Canada, in Sundre, Alberta. He was the one that taught me how to use the come along rope. He also was one that taught me how to braid rawhide, and also was one that taught me how to use a bozales, a bozal. Okay, and he was a master at working with horses. He used to come down here to Arizona in winter because it was nicer than Canada, and so he stayed at my ranch. And when he didn't stay at my ranch, he stayed at a trailer park in town and would come out almost every day. So I got a chance to work with Nick all the time. Will it work with horses? Absolutely. Nick used to go, and he got $5 a head for taking and leading a horse up the ramp into a train car, and then they would ship these horses down to the United States. Okay. And he said, Steve, we had them in a valley where we wintered, and as far as you could see was horses. As far as you could see. Every brand you can imagine there in Alberta, Canada. He says we would go out, we'd rope the horse on the back feet, get him to slow down, throw a rope on the head. We'd stretch him out a little bit, get the fight out of him, put the come along hitch on him, work him a little bit, and they did everything from the saddle. And then they would go and lead him up the ramp and into the train car. They considered him to be trained enough to go on this trip. You got $5 a head. He said, Steve, some days I could make $40, but it was him and his buddy together. That was a lot of money back in the 30s. So yes, can you use the come along hitch? Yes. I'd use the come along hitch on cattle. Yeah, cattle, rather than, you have a lot of these show cattle, and rather than using some of the methods that's used out there now, come along hitch is great. I've used it on wild cattle. I've used it on camels. Yep. I've used it on horses, donkeys as well. Not counting donkeys and not counting mules and horses. Big horses, your Belgians, your Shires, big ones like that, where normally people use chains. I use the come along hitch. It's a wonderful tool. And about the time you think that you're pretty good, when you start using that come along hitch, you'll find that your eye and hand and their legs are not matching up, and you'll find out how slow your timing is. But that come along hitch is a wonderful tool. And hey, by the way, Dave, don't tell your wife this, but Susan trained me with that come along hitch.
Oh, we like to produce things that have multiple purposes here. We're all about multi-use. We really don't spend a whole lot of time talking up any tack or saddles or anything, telling folks what they need to buy. We'll give you the information. You can make the decision on what's right for you. However, we almost do a disservice not talking up the come along rope, and in particular the ground foundation starting kit, because it is a tool that is a lifelong tool for the animal. You will not graduate from the come along rope. It's something that you're going to use. You're going to wear it out. You're going to re-wax it. You're going to get to the point where you want a new one, and you're going to buy another one, because it is a tool that allows you to do ground foundation training, allows you to do correction, and allows you to do tune-ups over the course of time. I think this is true, Steve, but I have never heard Steve talk about getting on an animal before he did some work on the ground with the come along hitch first, just getting to know the animal. Now, maybe there's an exception, but in all of the years we've done stuff together, I've never seen you get on an animal that you didn't know before doing work with the come along rope. And that's just how foundational it is. So I put a link in the comment section to the come along rope as part of the ground foundation starting kit. Don't buy just one piece, get all of them. It comes with an instructional video. You go around trying to buy just one of them, you're going to trip over $1 to pick up a dime, and you're going to come back wishing you had all three pieces. So highly recommend it. It's the only thing that we strongly emphasize folks purchase, and it's really because it is that effective. All of this stuff is effective, but this is so foundational for anyone and everyone, no matter what you plan to do with your animal. Going back to the comments here, I want to say hello to Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule from dark rural central Ohio. Glad to have y'all here. Nancy is watching, says, Nancy and Donkey here from warm 72 degree in Mountain City, Tennessee. Got church on Wednesday nights, so won't be able to stay long. I called my vet about Donkey eating dirt. He said more than likely just boarded. I've noticed he stopped doing that, but if he starts back up again, I will have the vet come back out and do the blood work. Anything to be concerned about when an animal starts eating dirt, Steve?
Well, yeah, usually they're somewhere, folks, they're missing some type of vitamin that they need. I think we talked about this donkey before. And listen, most of these mules and donkeys, if they're missing anything at all, they're usually low on zinc, okay, which can create a problem like us. So get the vet, get a hair follicle test, or get a blood test, and find out what these donkeys or mules really need. Don't just throw vitamins and minerals at them, okay? But if they're eating dirt, there's a problem there. Now, okay, let's get this in your mind. Is he just going around munching a little bit here and there. That's normal. They can look for the smallest little tidbit of a little piece of hay and will just love it to pieces. But if they're actually chewing dirt, that's a different story. That's serious.
Yeah. So glad you brought that up. That'll be helpful for other folks to hear. Thank you so much for the update, Nancy. Hannah is watching from Dunalin, Florida, 78 degrees, cloudy. Howdy. Love you guys. Love you too. Thanks so much, Hannah. Michelle is here. Hi, Dave and Steve from the Sunshine State of Florida. Good to have you here, Michelle. We got a question from Linda. What is a sliding gag bit? I looked it up, but the photos don't tell me much. Well, that was first originally designed in the 60s by women who had a hard time keeping the mouths of their husbands shut and the foot from going and inserted into the mouth. So thus you have the sliding gag pit. Isn't that true, Steve?
Sounds like it would work. Yeah. Because a lot of us guys got a bad habit of sticking our foot in their mouths way too many times.
Yeah. What is the sliding gag bit?
You know, Dave, I'm going to give you a little trailer on here.
All right.
When I see you for the webinar, I will have one.
There we go.
Then you all can actually see it. But what it does, it puts pressure on the nose, makes Vic go up in the mouth, and a chain hits him here. So it's like a vice smacking down on that tongue. Not a good thing. Okay? Stay away from anything, folks, that does the nose, the mouth, and underneath the chin. And I will show you one on the webinar.
Awesome. And what Steve's talking about, if you're just hopping on, next week we're doing an event. It's free. It's all about bits. Bits for your mules and donkeys. It's something you won't want to miss. A bidding there's so many things that are vital, but a bidding program is vital because vital to riding the animal, driving the animal, whatever it is you're doing, because you get that wrong and you're going to mess up your animal's mouth. And when you mess up their mouth, you lose control. And when you lose control, you no longer have a working animal. And it's all something that can be avoided, which is why we're doing the event. I'll put a link in the comment section again here in a second so you can sign up. But that's just a good reminder. If you are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Dave and this is Steve Edwards. We get together on Wednesdays, just talk mules and donkeys. So we would love to know that you're here. Put your name in the comment section, where you're watching from, what the weather's like. It'd be great to get to know you. Ask any and every question that you've got, and you can do that in the comment section. And finally, be sure and share this broadcast. If you're on Facebook, you can just click the share button. Or you can tag a friend and family member in there. If you're on YouTube, the best way you can help is to like the video and then subscribe to the channel. And that lets the YouTube algorithms know that, hey, this is good stuff. Other folks need to see this. We don't want folks wrecking their animals. Show them Steve Edwards. That's what it tells them, and we want to tell them the right thing. Linda says, let's see here. Did you receive my picture of Millie the donkey? I think I have it. Linda, I'll have to go back and double check. Shelly is watching from, is it Sookie or Sook, British Columbia, Canada. Either way, we've gone international again. Listening to you while I'm out doing my horse and mule chores, currently not training, so gotta get it all done now. Well, I'm glad you were able to take us with take us with you, and we'll keep the entertainment coming live for the next 20 minutes. Jarrett is watching. Hi, Steve. I ride my mule in a Shank Bit, and he does really well in it. However, he tends to chew on the shanks with the shape of the shanks on your trail rider. Stop this. Thank you. What are shanks, Steve? And then his question.
Okay. Shanks are on both sides of the mouth, okay? And you attach the reins to the bottom of the shank. And when you pick up on the shank, it turns the bit in the mouth. It turns it so that it communicates to either the roof of the mouth or the tongue or the bars. It depends on the type of bit, okay? Now, the biggest problem that folks have when it comes down to bits is you're making the bit work for the mule. The majority of bits out there are designed for horses, folks, which is a different palate than what we have in that mule and donkey. So what happens is they will try to find a way to tell you, hey, I'm uncomfortable. They will chew on it all the time. They will stick their tongue over it. They will stick their tongue out on the side. And that is why I designed the bit the way I did. That's one of the ways. Because what happens is, folks, these mules are pretty crafty. They get tired of you pulling on them. They'll reach around and they'll get a hold of that shank and they'll pull it in their mouth and they got you. So all the mule is trying to do is say, hey, you're hurting me. Will you please help me out? That's all he's trying to do. So you'll see the way my bit is designed, and I'm going to talk about this during the webinar. The way it's designed is for the mule and donkey. That's what it is. Okay, you cannot use it on a horse. It has a different palate on a horse. So that's what I'm going to do. So you all will see the difference. Now, Dave, I sent you a picture of two bits. And I showed how one bit was kind of up and on the flat ground, and the other bit was laying flat. Those two bits. Now, when we have the webinar, folks can look at that picture and see that my bit is tipped up like this, and the horse bit is laying flat. I'm over exaggerating it right here, right now, but the picture I sent you of that will show on the webinar, and then we'll also talk about the shanks and the type of shank that I use on my mules just for things like this, because problems are easy, folks. It's really easy, especially if you have bought the mule and somebody else is riding it beforehand. The downside is, folks, we got so many horse people right now that are getting into the mules because there's really good money in these mules, and so they find them at a sale or out in somebody's pasture or something, and they put a story on them and then they sell them. So you can't blame them. They're trying to make a living, but trouble is they're not always telling the truth in the right way. So something to consider.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it. Make sure you get registered. It's free, but you have to register. You won't be able to join once the event started. So get registered, and you'll get the invitation. You'll get reminders leading up to the event, just subtle reminders. You'll be able to add it to your calendar so you don't forget. It's very easy to join. It's all online. You can join from your device, your mobile device, or your computer. And heck, if you want to put it on your TV and you can click on a website link from your TV. I guess that's out there. You can watch it on your TV too. You can see this face and that face right there on the big screen, which that's great for the world. We need to get these faces on the big screen. Next question comes from Dylan. Dylan asked the question, let's see here. I am wondering how I can properly put weight on him. Now, I'm assuming he means a mule and not his dad or his baby or something. I feed my horses alfalfa. Can I add some of this to his diet? I do feed him some grain of sorts. I don't want to make any wrong decisions, but I want him nice and strong before I ride him consistently. And then he asked the question, how do I know what is the correct saddle size for him? So let's talk about the food. Need to put weight on him. Feed my horses, etc. And then what do you say there, Steve?
How old is the mule? Number one. Number two, have you had his teeth loaded? That's number two. Marlin?
Yeah, Marlin.
Yeah, Marlin. Okay. Yeah, pretty nice looking mule there. Got a nice, good gasket muscle. I wouldn't call him fat. I like that mule. He's put together pretty good. The downside is his top line is the sorry part. Okay,
is that right here?
The top line is, yes, that's the top line. Notice that the hip is higher than the mule's back, and so he's got a downhill hip. So what we got to do is fix the top line. And you take you use whole oats. Folks, I never suggest feeding alfalfa. If you have seen some of the almost softball size of things that vets have taken out of the urinary tract of a horse because of all the problems that alfalfa hay does, especially first cutting, is extremely tough. Any of your first cuttings, but especially alfalfa, is extremely tough. So I want to build the top line. In the meantime, you can't just use any old pad on there because the spine is sticking up above the muscle mass, the loin across the top, and we got to build that up. So I developed a pad for that, which would be good with the saddle. Now, going on. So what we have to do is every time you ride, not just a daily feed, but when you ride, folks, when you go to ride, buy you some whole oats. Everybody should be doing this. Mules and donkeys, buy the whole oats, not your crimped oats. That's for fattening. Your whole oats. And what this does is it gives them energy. What this mule's happened is people have rode the hair off of him and not fed him properly, and so now his top line is gone. It's going to take probably a year and a half, 2 years to build that back. So how you do it is you feed whole oats every time you go out riding. What the whole oats does is it gives the mule energy, and he won't burn the muscle like he's done, but he'll burn the fat. And this mule is not fat. He's actually a nice weight, except for the top line. So that'll start building the top line. It'll give him energy, give him plenty of things to do. So what you do is you put your whole oats in there, put the nose bag on him, and then start saddling him and riding. When you get him saddled and you get ready to put the bridle on, that's the time that you pull the morale off your feed bag, and all he can eat during that 10-minute time frame, 15-minute time frame of saddling, that's all he needs, and then go ride. But don't go keeping grain and alfalfa and everything in front of them. They don't need the sugar content. It's really bad on their digestive system as well, and they will develop grass founder really easy. Folks, these mules and donkeys, grass founder really easy. That's why you see the big, thick necks on a lot of these animals, because they've been fed incorrectly.
Feed is huge. It is everything. And we've talked a little bit about feed here. I'll put a link in the comment section here in a minute to the 2 feed resources that are really just head and shoulders above everything else that's out there. Just simple, but life-altering. Next question comes from Diane. We haven't heard from Diane in a little while, at least not sending in a question. So good to hear from you, Diane. I'm glad that you reached out. Hey, Steve and Dave, I have a 3-year-old gelded donkey, and his disposition has changed. He is halter broke, and I can lead him. He is usually very sweet, but lately he is reluctant to come to me. When he does, I'll reach out to put the halter on him, and he'll spin around and kick up like he's going to kick me. It's almost as if he's mad at me for something. When I go to the feed room, and he knows where his feed is in there, to feed the chickens and the donkeys, he blocks the door and will not let me out. When I push him away and tell him back, he spins around again and tries to kick me. He has done this with my granddaughter also, who loves to play with her chickens. I love this donkey, but I love my granddaughter more. Please help me. I would hate to think of this as his demise if I would have to get rid of him. He does have a donkey friend. Yeah, Steve, this is pretty serious, and you can tell she really wants to do the right thing. What might you say to her?
Well, folks, I've talked about this before, about your kids being around these donkeys and these mules and how aggressive they can be. Look, these mules and donkeys, they're a herd animal. And they are trying to get her to be in their herd. So they will use their body to block them. They will spin and kick, which starts to get tough. They will bite you. They will do a lot of things. And unfortunately, the donkey now says, I want you to be in my herd. I want to be fed when I want to be fed. and I want everything's done just like this. And he's not trying to be malicious necessarily, but just trying to say, hey, you're my herd and you will do as I want. Now, you got two choices. Either go ahead and get rid of the donkey. Unfortunately, he's going to have somebody else is going to be having problems now, okay? Or you get serious. And that is, this donkey needs to be put in a small corral where you start controlling the feet. You don't allow this donkey to be a puppy dog and come around and be close to you and stuff. Folks, these are not puppy dogs. These are equine, and they need leadership. And you need to show them leadership. Now, the other thing I would do is, this donkey's in your space, okay? Get yourself a quirk, a good whip, in other words, and put it right inside the door and smack them on the ribs. Take an old fishing rod or something like that if you don't have a quirk, and smack them on the ribs and say, hey, get back, you know. I would even go so far as, you know, a good heavy switch, something that's going to create some discomfort, i.e. pain. Because here's the problem, folks. When these mules and donkeys and horses want you to be a certain place, they pin their ears, they'll ask you not to come no closer. Or they will pin their ears and switch their tail. They've asked you, now they've told you, don't come no closer. Then they spin and kick. It could be the same thing. I want you to go over there, and they pin their ears. They don't do it. Well, then they pin their ears and they switch their tail, and you don't do it. Now what happens? The mule is pushing you and getting you in your space, because the donkey is saying, I want you to do what I want you to do. And yeah, you're going to have to get pretty tough. Get your granddaughter out of there. Don't have that granddaughter or any of them small kids around there, because she's going to get hurt, okay? And it's really easy to get hurt with these boogers. Remember, they are not a dog. They're an equine. They need leadership.
Next question comes from David O'Brien. David's been super active over the last several months in our live streams, and it's been great having him here. So, David, thanks so much for hanging out with us. He asked the question, and this is kind of following up. He says, Steve, I'm confused. I'm watching your foundation colt starting video. Great video, by the way. And it says, never tie your mule with the come-along hitch. But I'm almost positive that when you critiqued a picture I sent of you, how my mule was tied on a Wednesday broadcast, you said I should use the come-along hitch instead of the rope halter. Can you confirm which way I should be doing this? So I told David, I said, yeah, you don't tie with the come-along rope, but I want to hear what Steve says, because there's a lot of other folks who are going to need to hear the same thing. And so David was very gracious, and he says, what I'm thinking is, to train her, I should tie her with the come-along, but to tie her and walk away, should I just use the rope halter? See you in a couple hours. Steve, what do you say for David?
All right, so get this picture, folks. No, you never tie with the come-on hitch. Now, I can tell you that I have tied them in the past, because they got to be so tough that I, with my 200 pounds, couldn't keep back a 1,200-pound animal. So I was able to do it. But I also brought the halter up, and they hit the end of it. They usually hit the end of it once, but I did not tie them. I dallied around the post so I could control it. You'll also see it in my trailer loading video, because I had just shoved a knife through my finger the day before the video, and I didn't have the use of that left hand, so I had to do most of everything the right hand. So this is what I told you to do last week, and what I tell people to do everywhere. You put the come-along hitch on, and you walk them from A to B. As you're walking from the corrals to where you're going to groom them and saddling them, you make sure they stay straight. They're not allowed to look to the right or left. You're doing foundational training in that 400 feet, whatever it is. Now, once you get there, you should get to the point to where you can drop the come-along rope on the ground, and they will stand there. But to get there, you need to have all your tools out, your brushes and everything in a bucket right there. so that you can hold on to the come along hitch and pick up your tools and do your work. Now, it's not important to do the brushing and the picking up the feet if the mule is wanting to move. You only start brushing and picking up the feet when he's quiet. And then what you're going to do, you'll see it in the video where I throw my rope across my arm right here, like this. So as I'm walking, I can brush, and I've got my rope here, so I have my come along hitch at any one time. If at any one time the mule moves his nose, I'm going to bump it, because the nose connects to the neck, which connects to the shoulder, which connects to the feet. So I'm going to fix it before the feet move. If the feet move, folks, your timing is not there. You want to take and fix it before the mule moves. Starts with the nose. So in essence, it's what you're doing. What you have to do is you get to the point where you can just go up, drop that come along rope on the ground, and that's it. Okay? Now, that's what you want to do. That's your ultimate goal. Here's the problem with the halter. You go over and you tie with the halter, and then you're trying to brush and things like this, and these mules are wanting to see the other people around, and they're moving around a lot, and all you're trying to do is get them brushed. It's not important to get them brushed. It's important they stand still and quiet. You do that with the come along hitch. No, you don't tie with the come along hitch. Yes, you do spend time with them being quiet. Remember the videos I was telling you about? And Dave has got one that shows me working with the come along hitch and see it not tied, picking up all the feet and doing this stuff. And matter of fact, last week we showed that video. But the main thing is, folks, don't rely on that halter. The halter does not build a foundation. The halter can refine you a little bit as you get down the trail, but don't depend upon it. Use the come along hitch for the next 6 months. And as far as I'm concerned, don't even need a halter. But if you need to use a halter to tie up on the trail, to take a break or something, then you do that. I prefer, when you watch me ride, or Randy Figgins ride, or any cowboys that I know, we don't have a halter underneath there. We hobble train them. They tie one rein to the horn, the other rein drops down, and they learn to stand still and quiet.
Awesome. Thanks for the question,
hey, Dave.
David.
We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. Do you have a hard stop, or do you have a few extra minutes?
No, I'm good. I don't have a hard stop, but we do want to talk about this.
Let me run through. Let's get through. Let me get through a bunch right here, and then we'll get to that. I have one more question. Right. I just want to make sure we say hi to all the folks who took time to say hi to us. Mary is watching from Michigan. Sunny 54 today. Next few days, 100% rain. She has like a emoji. Send it our way. We'll take that rain. Cowboy Ken is watching today. Roger up in Texas, or up in New York, Milan, New York, is watching. AZ Highland is here. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. We got Trinity and Jordan hanging out. Jordan and I are just trying to get finished up with hunting season so we can spend some quality time training with the mules. Thanks bunches. Myra says, I'll call you next week about this old lady situation. AZ Highland says they hit the thumbs up button for everyone. Thank you, AZ Highland. Hey, Joyce Van Camp is here. Yaha tender near sundry. Great to hear you speak of Albertans here in windy Alberta, Canada. Hope to stop in to visit you at the Queen Valley, Arizona in early March. Hey, we should have a clinic around that time so you could say hello, Joyce. We would love to have a clinic out. Yeah, Steve? Yep. We'll do a clinic. That would be good. We'll talk about it. Karen says we can't get the Lakin pellets here. Are the Equise Complete pellets okay? So, Karen, the best takeaway is going to be what you see in the Lakin Light. That's what you want. Those ingredients are what you want. If there's a particular ingredient in the other one, because I saw the document, I'll send it to Steve, but I saw the document. If there's a particular ingredient you're concerned about, you can ask about that. But really what you want is just a good, simple feed that is as close to Lakin Light as possible, meaning as few things out of it as possible and as few things added in as possible. That's going to be your best rule of thumb. Yeah.
Now remember, Dave, on this feed, you all, everybody's got to get this in your mind. Those ingredients are your starting place.
Yeah.
It is not the feed to feed. It's how you start. How do you tell? you know about your hair follicles and your blood tests, okay? Now, with me, I knew my animals. I could see how they were going. I could see how they were going. I could feel their hair. So, this lake and feed is only your starting place where you can start to feed them correctly and use it as your foundation and then see what works for your mule and donkey.
So I'll send Steve that spreadsheet. Actually, it's a pretty informational spreadsheet, Steve. I think you'd enjoy looking at it. We'll get that. We'll get you what you need here, Karen. Let's see. Linda says, Dave, you need a vacation like yesterday. I need a vacation every day yesterday. Let's see here. Nick is watching from Prescott. Hey, Captain is watching. Richard Matthews, Chaplain Steve, and Dave. Good to have you here. Hey, Captain, I don't know if you knew this or not. I'm actually an ordained minister. Now, I'm not a registered chaplain or anything like that, but I am an ordained minister, and I can marry anybody's daughter or son off. I've done multiple weddings, so Chaplain Steve and I guess pseudo Chaplain Dave. Let's see here. David O'Brien says, I have an 11-month-old Molly mule training about 10 months. Because of the come-along rope, she started off soaking in ground foundation training and is being very responsive. We love hearing that. Thank you, David. Judy says, I just rescued 2 Perlino mules a week ago on Saturday. Both are terrified and make aggressive moves if I try to touch them. I have them in a 10 by 20 pen, which is what Steve says, made out of large, and each one having their own, made out of large round pen panels with a gate. I'm not trying to do anything to force any issues with them. Feed them morning and night, extra hay midday, sit and talk to them quietly when feed so they get used to me and hope they'll figure out I'm not the boogeyman. Both have manes clipped in past and have had farrier care in the past, but very traumatized from being taken from pasture after lengthy time to auction and then the kill pen. Am I right to be patient and wait for them to come around? Steve, it sounds like we got Judy who really cares about these animals, wants to do right by them, but just understands there's a reality of their past, maybe not great owners in the past, maybe people who didn't understand them, and now she's concerned for her current and future. What do you say?
Well, it's tough, folks. When you buy in any pens and go to any mule sales or anything like this, you don't always get what you think you bought. You don't. The downside of the going to the kill pen, and we got some articles on it, is some of them animals need to go to the kill pen because they're going to hurt somebody. Be patient, yes, but here's the thing. Okay, with an animal like this, they've been through different people. They've had some trauma, but they always get over the trauma, but these mules could very well be, it is their nature to be scared of everything. It's their nature because you are a predator. They are a prey animal, and it's their nature to be afraid of you, okay? Some more than others. So you've got your hands full. I would say get yourself some education. There's a lot of information out there. Follow different people and see what works for you. If it works for you, use it. If it don't work for you, don't use it. So your pens need to be set up to a round pen. They can't just be in those 10 by 20 stalls and not get out and go do round pen work, do single work, things like that. You also need to use a rope. That's where the come along kit works really good. And watch me do that work. So start with the come along kit, the come along rope, and the come along halter in the video, and start right there and work your way up.
I just put 2 links in the comment section. One of them is our article, Steve's article on rescuing mules and donkeys from a kill pen, everything that you need to know. The other one is how to buy a mule or donkey on Craigslist or at auction. Both of those are hugely helpful, not just if you are considering that, but if you've done that, giving you a little bit of insight into what's ahead of you and what you've gotten yourself into, for better or for worse. It's just straight up give you the information and then you can make the decision. James is watching from Missouri. We've got, hey, Yolanda here watching the downhill hip pad comments. Good to have you here, Yolanda. Reggie is watching from North Dakota. Bobby says, is there a way to get rid of the fat neck or the crest on my Jenny?
Well, there you go. That's grass founder, folks. We were just talking about it. And when you get that heavy crest across there, that mule, that donkey, and some horses have been in a feed area where they have got too much carbohydrates, too much sugar content in their feed. And so it ends up being the crest of the neck, dock the tail, across the top of the ribs. Is there a way? Yes. Get rid of carbohydrates. I mean, zero carbohydrates. Get you a stud sweat. It's called a stud sweat. And it's a big cloth that goes over the neck that actually fits tight and it makes it sweat. And every time you ride, anytime you're training, you put it on and ride and train. Now, can you leave it on all the time? Yes, you can. Especially during the summertime, it's great. But the idea is to ride and sweat that fat off, okay? Now, the downside is this. Once those fat pockets are set, it's like you and I, it's hard to get rid of them things, folks. You know, it is. And so you've got your work ahead of you. But get a stud sweat.
Stud Sweat was my nickname in high school.
Oh, David.
I was sitting on that. The second you said Stud Sweat, I was like, jokes. What joke can I tell?
Yeah. Horrible. Next.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All seriousness. Kit sent in a message. Now, we're going to talk about this next week, Kit. So we want you at the event next week. But he says, what is the best bit and bridle to start my Colt mule in? Now, I sent him back a message. I said, you got to be on the event. We don't do this event all the time. It's not like, oh, we just so happen to have an event. And it's not really just so happen. No, we just so happen to have an event. This is the first one we've done all fall. It just so happens to be about bits. So this is like God's providence for you. He knew that you needed bit education, and we're giving you bit education. But after I told him to sign up, I said, here's the order of progression. Tell me if I got this right. 6 months foundation work at minimum with the come along rope and the rope halter. Before you even try to do that, you got to do 6 months foundation work. Then you do the Mule Riders Martingale, and I don't know how long, but Mule Riders Martingale with surcingle work till you get that head nice and sloped and responsive. And then once you've got good communication there, then you can switch to the trail rider bit. So I'm pretty sure that's the order. Now, there's some nuance there. Don't get into all the details because, Kit, you got to come to the event. But, Steve, did I get it right? And is that the basic setup?
You're just fine. You're just great. You want to think that 6 months builds a foundation for everything. For cleaning the feet, for brushing them down so that everything is right. 6 months always builds a foundation, 4 to 6 hours a week, and that's all over a 6 month time frame. Now, you can use the ground communication kit and the martingale simultaneously when you're doing very good with the ground communication kit. When you're doing that right, like you see on that video, then yes, you can start introducing to the martingale, but you will be using that come along rope all the rest of your life of your mule and donkey.
So, Kit, get signed up for the event. You won't regret it. There is a replay. I know some folks are concerned about that. Hey, I'm not going to be able to attend live. That's okay. We know that timing is just not going to work out for everybody to be there, which is why we made sure that after the event, about 1 to 2 hours after the event, you'll get an email with a link where you can go and watch the replay, and it's available for 7 days or something like that. So,
and we dropped the F-bomb.
F-bomb, it's free, and it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be great.
Yes.
Let's see here. Diane is watching. Oh, yes. Awesome. Thank you, Diane. She watched and she heard your feedback, Steve. Shelly is watching. I've been keeping my mule in a small paddock, maybe 20 feet by 30 to 35 with a loafing shed. Man, that's what I need for my life, where I can just go loaf around. She's been in there for 6 months as I couldn't catch her, but now I can. Now I can let her out into a large paddock, gravel footing, no food during the day, and let her back into her small paddock during the night. As soon as she sees me, she walks back into her paddock gate. She likes her food. I'm not seeing a question in there, Shelly. So are we celebrating with you, or do you have a follow-up question? I think we're celebrating. Steve, is that good, being able to make that happen?
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. And get this, folks. My wife's 28-year-old mule, we bought it as a 2-year-old. So we had her for 26 years. She spent her whole life in a 10 by 20 stall. Get that, folks? 26 years in a 10 by 20 stall. It makes us feel good, Dave, that we can turn them out and let them go run and play. It's not good for them, okay? Now, did my wife's mule, did we go hunting? Yes. Did we go trail riding? We went camping. She was an Arizona state champion, world champion. I mean, she was an awesome mule. But her home was a 10 by 20 stall, and she was nearly flawless all the way through. Did I keep her fine-tuned? Yes. Everything from my grandkids to a 97-year-old blind man rode that mule. But it makes a difference, folks, in their attitude when you don't put them out in a bigger pen. They don't need it. They don't need it.
There we go. Moving right along. Yolanda says, I did not follow your whole seminar. Well, there's still time. You can follow the whole thing, Yolanda. We need you there because we need this information in Europe. And you are the unofficial Mule Ranch advocate in Europe. Let's see here. Joe is watching from Payson. Bill says, running late. Thanks for all the information. You got it, Bill. Diane says, Dave, how did you and Steve meet? Well, that's a great question. So I'll give the real quick answer. Are you okay if I answer this, Steve?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So I was a pastor at a church back in my early 20s, and I did the music. And one day in service, I saw this really, really tall, large man who was singing and just raising his hands and just really experiencing the Holy Spirit. That's what we call God's Spirit, is the Holy Spirit. And it was really cool for me to see that somebody was really connecting. And that guy came up afterwards and introduced himself. And he says, my name's Michael. This is my first time here. I just really appreciated the music today. And I was like, gosh, man, well, I love it. He's like, I would love to run sound. So long story short, Michael and I become good friends. I'm working at a nonprofit. I'm working at a church. I'm brand new to my career. I'm not making much money at all. And Michael goes, I have a family friend who needs help editing videos. I said, oh, I can help with that. He goes, but here's the kicker. He's a mule man and they're mule videos. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, he trains mules. He trains mules for princes and royalty. He's traveled to all the continents training mules. People fly him all over the United States. He does clinics, expos. He needs his mule training videos edited. And he says he needs lightning at the beginning of his video, cracking and saying, this is not Hollywood. I said, well, I can do that. And so, I don't know if you remember it this way, but I remember it this way, Steve. So, we wound up meeting in a parking lot somewhere. Steve brought the original video footage out to me. We met in a parking lot somewhere with his Dodge flatbed, or Dodge, hauler truck, cowboy hat and everything. Howdy, partner. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. And so that's how we met. Was me first editing Steve's videos. Matter of fact, one of the first videos I actually shot was Steve's shoeing video. So if you go to his website and you find the shoeing video, that was the first live video I ever shot. I don't know if you remember it any different than that, Steve, but I think that's pretty much how it went.
Yep, I think you did good there, Dave. You sure did, buddy.
Yeah. So and so then eventually I got super involved in ministry, and I really needed to dedicate a lot more time. So I told Steve I was going to have to move on, and Michael's brother wound up doing videos for a while. And then I said, God was looking out for you, Kit. God was looking out for me at the exact same time that Michael's brother was needing to move on because he got a job working full-time at a church. I decided to start my own business, and it was just like God's providence. People talk about ships passing in the night. Well, this was not ships passing in the night. This was God like thunking you on the head saying, hey, I'm trying to do something here. Get on board. And so we got on board, and it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I think I've enjoyed it. That's a great question, Diane. Thank you so much for asking that. Carla is watching. Carla, great to see you guys. Snow and ice here in northern British Columbia. You know what that means. It's taking us international again. Linda says, buy that boy a plane ticket now to go out on the vacay. Hey, I'll take it. Yolanda says, stud sweat. Yep, my nickname in high school. Maya is watching. Wow, stud sweat. Yep, that's what they said. Vicky says, joined late. Can you go over info for the event? Yes, Vicky. Next week on Wednesday, we're doing a webinar all about bits. You want to be there. It's everything you're going to need to know about your bidding program. You're going to be shocked at how simple your bit program can be. And you're also going to be flabbergasted by just how easy it is for a bit program to go wrong, and all of the mistakes that you can avoid and should avoid and won't have to deal with. That's what we're going to cover. And so I'll put a link one more time before we leave. Bus says, thank you for all the info. I have a small farm and I'm thinking about getting a mule. I am doing research first because I have no experience. So your channel is amazing. You're doing what you need to, Bus. Learn, and let us know how we can help you. Karen says, I'm late again. You know what, Karen? You're right on time for you. So we're glad that you were able to say hello. You can watch the replay. Karen's final question of the day, Steve. This will be the last question. I have a question about the Mule Riders Martingale, which we were going to talk about, right? My mule puts her tongue over the bit before I can even get the headstall tightened up. Do I just let her keep putting the tongue over it, or what am I doing wrong? Thanks for your help. So, Steve, talk to Karen and then talk about what you got there.
Okay, now, so with the Mule Riders Martingale, it's my tool. It's my go-to. I don't ride anything. I don't care how well broke they say it is. I ride with that Mule Riders Martingale. It's my go-to bridle. Has saved my bacon a lot of times. Now, reason the tongue is getting over the bit, and I talked about this at the beginning of the program, is because the bit is too high. Number one reason, you're putting the bit up too high. Put the bit down and let it bang the front teeth. If it's a mare mule, you're going to have incisors, okay? If it's a John mule, you're going to have a canine right there, a canine. So incisors, the front teeth, then the canine, then the molars back here. All right. So if it's a John mule, let it hang down, bump that canine. A Molly mule, hang down, bump those incisors. Now, when it's bumping those incisors to that canine, it makes them uncomfortable. Remember, their life is a life of comfortable, uncomfortable. That's it. Okay. And because it is a life of comfortable, uncomfortable, when that bit is banging on their teeth, they will pick it up and carry it. When you create one wrinkle or two wrinkles, you're making them hold the bit, and they're trying to tell you, hey, this is making me uncomfortable, and let the bit hang down. Then let them spend time. Don't put any bit in the mouth. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot in the webinar. When you take and put the bit in the mouth, allow them to spend time asking questions about that. Mules aren't stupid, folks, and donkeys are even smarter. They will spend time picking up the bit and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down. Let them do that. It's not important to go ride. It's important that their questions are answered. And pretty soon they'll get to where they'll pack the bit. Now, I never, ever, ever tighten up those bits on my Mule Riders Martingale. It always hangs down, and for the rest of their life, they'll pick up that bit and carry it. Now, when I put on my finished bit, my trail rider bit, when I put on a finished bit, then I need to have them, that's a heavier bit, so I will adjust it to where they pick it up and hold it, because they like it right there the most. That's where they'll do it. And that's where I'll adjust the bit to. I never, ever put on a pre-adjusted bit. Every time I take the bit off, I loosen it up 2 notches. Let your mule be comfortable, folks. Take the pressure off of them. Loosen it up a couple notches. The bit will hang down. They'll try to spit it out. Okay. Pull the bridle off, right ear first, left ear second, and then put it away. You go to put it on, slide your hand up, put your hand on the tongue, and put it on the bars of the mouth. Rub the bars of the mouth. They'll open their mouth. The head is down and nose tip to the left. That way they're comfortable, and you slide the bit in. Sit there and watch it. They'll pick it up and they'll put it where they like it. Remember, you did not adjust it. You give them a minute, let them pick it up and where they like it, and then adjust it to that spot. But you do not get to that point until they are being consistent. Consistent with packing that bit. Folks, it's not important to go ride. It's important that your mule is comfortable.
Wasn't that the mule rider's martingale that you had right there with you?
No.
Oh, what was that?
Remember, I'm going to give away a bridle.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're going to give away a bridle. We talked about that. That's a great idea. So tell us what we got there, Steve. Let's give one away.
Okay, here's a bridle. This is the small bridle. It's built in the old-timey way. This is the cheek piece. This is the crown. This is the brow band. For your small mules, it has the Steve Edwards concho, the logo, okay, right there, and then your buckles on each side. The other bridle, built the same way, with the crown, the brow band, the conchos. This has got a bigger cheek piece. This is for your bigger mules. Right there. It's all made in old cowboy way. All right. Nice bridles. I am going to give one of these bridles away, shipping and all, if you answer this question within the next 5 minutes. Okay? I'm going to send it to you. But here's the question. What was my wife's mule's name? And I've said it several times today. What is my wife's mule's name? Answer it in the next 5 minutes. Dave will get your name, address, and everything, and I will ship this bridle to you. This bridle here is $90, folks. $90. Every clinic that we do, every show that we do, every Wednesday, I will give away a bridle, but you have to answer my question in a 5-minute time frame at the end of the show.
We got a winner, Steve.
Oh!
She knew it right away. We got 4 people right away, but we have somebody who answered first and foremost. So Carla, Ron in Virginia, Linda, Sherman, Trace, they all got it correct. But the first person who spoke up was Karen. Karen won. The name is Stacy. Hey, Joyce says, Stacy, y'all were listening good. And y'all were listening good. And so that means next week is going to be another perfect time for y'all to win. And listen, we'll ask you a question at the end. This week, we're going to give away this bridle to Karen. Karen, send me a message, support@muleranch.com. Give me your shipping address and your phone number and whether you want the large or the small. Steve, who wants the large, who wants the small? What size mule do you really want to be talking about here, mule or donkey?
Well, the mules are donkeys. Some of them got a little bit bigger heads than others. I can tell you that for the most part, you can't really see it, but both bridles are very adjustable. And in all essence, buckle to buckle, there's only 2 inches difference on the bottom, but 3 inches where you put the bit in. Now, folks, this bridle is not for a snaffle bit. It is designed for a finish bit so that it will hang correctly on the mule's head and mouth. So, hey, good for a bunch of you. You got the name of Stacy? Perfect. Now, great. Now, remember what Dave's wife's name is? I may have to ask you about that. Training questions. We got lots of things, but I've got a bunch of these bridles, Dave, and I'm going to give them away because I got some. You and I got some super mule and donkey people.
We do have some super mule and donkey people. Reggie's chiming in with what he thinks next week is going to be. He says Casper. He thinks next week's going to be Casper. Y'all need to listen and find out who Casper is. That's it for today. Karen, be sure and send me a message, support@muleranch.com. We'll get you taken care of. Folks, thanks for hanging out. We do know that you could be spending your time doing any number of other things. The fact that you come and spend a little bit of time with us here today, that's just awesome by us. We really enjoy doing this together. I messaged Steve ahead of time today, especially after missing last week. I said, I'm looking forward to today's show. It really is a lot of fun. One last call, get signed up for the event next week. Y'all have done real good during this event here. I think we've had like 20 or 30 people sign up for next week's event just while this broadcast has been going on. So go click the link that I put in the comment section. It's free. But you will not get the event and you will not get a video if you don't register. It is registration only. That's the system that we use. If you wait until after it starts, you won't be able to get in. And that's just the way that it goes. So sign up now. Don't miss it. Put that cursor over the link in the comment section. The link is mydemio.com, and then there's some other stuff. Click on that. Go get registered. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Steve, take care.
Hey, we'll see you, son.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you, Dad.